All right. Quick off-the-cuff video. I'll probably call this one something like AI for senior developer dummies. Because, yeah, if you're a senior developer and have worked with data all your life, then there's actually not that many good instructions out there for you. Because a lot of instructions are either geared at people who maybe want to get into machine learning from scratch, or people who already know a lot of the basics of AI and machine learning. And yeah, don't be me, because last year I was thinking, okay, I want to get into AI stuff, and so then I did some research and I was like, okay, I got to learn PyTorch. I started like going through this whole course of like days and days of how to train models from scratch. So my first hot take here is, and correct me in the comments if you disagree, but you don't have to learn how to train models from scratch and all the tensors and the special libraries and PyTorch, etc. Leave that to other people. As a senior developer who has worked with a ton of data, you have a lot of other strengths that you can use right away. You don't have to learn something completely new. And yeah, like 99.9% of what you want to do potentially with AI or ML, or what companies want you to do, just involves fine-tuning existing models, not building models from scratch. And you can already do that, I almost promise you. So let me give you an example. Like here, I came across this because I've been playing around with Suno a lot, and it can be really hard to write prompts. So you might want to go, okay, I want to generate a song. I want it sort of in the style of this other song I know. And here somebody created on the ChatGPT platform a GPT where you can just type in, make me a super Suno prompt for song title and artist. And it gives back all kinds of info about the song, but also a super Suno prompt that you can then plug in. And I tested it, and I really like the prompts. Now, Suno right now sucks sort of, where very often the resulting song, it doesn't match. But that's Suno's problem, that it always has to throw in some piano or whatever. But be that as it may, as a senior developer, you might look at this and you go like, oh wow, this person has been working on this for months, and this is like really cool. So what did they do here really? Did they like go through this whole PyTorch and all those sequences of training and whatever? Did they like get somewhere a whole data set with like all songs and artists and fed that into to train the model from scratch or whatever? And of course, no. And the clue is that it's on the ChatGPT platform, so it's just a fine-tuned GPT. And here comes my second hot take. So, as a senior developer who's worked with data all your life, you're probably so accustomed to that you never get more data out than you put in, that it's almost second nature. And for AI and ML, you have to learn that you get more data out than you put in, and you get more structure out potentially than you put in. I mean, you have to kind of define your fine-tuning, but then the large language model does all the heavy lifting, and it does a ton of heavy lifting. Like here, I doubt that the person fed in tons of information about songs and stuff like that. I mean, maybe they had some extra information and they fed it in to fine-tune the model. But the main trick of this is to nudge and mold the LLM to give you the answers in the kind of response that you want. Here, as a senior developer, you see this is like nicely structured data with genre, vibe, beats per minute, vocals in the super Suno prompt, So I did it here for Computer Love by Kraftwerk. That's what I got out. Yeah, so we look at what training for this looks like. But, most likely the person did not feed any song information into the ChatGPT. This was already all in the very expensive training that OpenAI did for you and provided the model. So it's just about nudging to get out the data in a format that you want. And of course, you can even get it like, in an easily parsable form or JSON where you can easily tie it into an app or whatever. And yeah, another rule is how easy all this is. It's almost like scary easy, because it used to be really hard to do a lot of similar stuff, and now it's really, these large language models are so powerful. They already contain all you want and the ability to format things in the way you want. You just have to give it that little bit information to nudge it. Now, for training with data, let me give you an example. So typically I do these Upwork listing streams where we go through Upwork listings and look at things to do. And the other day there was like semi-successful podcaster who listed that he wanted a customized chatbot where users can interact in an app with a chatbot, and the chatbot answers with all the knowledge of all the transcripts of that podcast that the podcaster ever did. So clearly you have a lot of data there where you have to actually feed specific data to customize the model. But it's still only nudging the large language model. Like as a senior software developer, immediately maybe your mind goes to, okay, I feed all the transcripts, and then the large language model only responds based on what's in the transcripts. But really what these transcripts do is all that data is like molding the responses to be more like that podcaster. Like if that podcaster, say, is like right-wing politically and has all these kinds of opinions, then it molds the GPT responses, or large language model responses to respond more in that style. Just like if you customize an image model, with your own face, it might make every woman, with your own face, or if you're a man with your plugs your own face in there. But it still uses mostly all the other knowledge that it has. So it's not so unlearn that you only get the data out that you put in, but get more used to the fact that the LLM uses 99.999% of what it was trained on by OpenAI or Meta or whatever, who fed like petabytes of data, trained the model, and you're just nudging it in a certain direction when you fine-tune. So how do you do that nudging? And I go here with replicates instructions, partly because I don't have a good graphics card, and I like replicate.com because anybody, no matter what kind of computer you have, you can find models or run models, and you do it through API. And if you're a senior software developer, API calls are second nature to you. And these instructions are good, but still it's like, they don't give it to you like really straight. It's still a little bit, it can leave you with questions. And I hope I answered already a little bit that what you're really doing when you're fine-tuning. Yeah, so they give examples here. You can get topics out of text. You can generate text in a format or style. Or the chatbot, like that podcast example I just talked about. And here it suggests fine-tuning the Meta Llama model. So of course Meta is known for their model to be like open source. Not how they trained it. Basically what that means then is the model is for you to fine-tune and run locally if your computer has the capability. But of course how it was trained or training data or whatever, that's of course not open source, but the result is open source. And it's really amazing how small some of these models are for the capabilities that they have. So that can be a bit mind-blowing if you're used to, you know, like Postgres databases with terabytes of data, and you have a really hard time getting data out. And with AI and machine learning, you might have a model that is, you know, easily fits on, I don't know, like your SSD, and it can respond with such a ton of information about everything in the world. So, and very fast. So that's another one of those weird things. So, but let's go in here. So we're building here an instruction tuned model or auto completing model, basically. And here finally we get to where you go like, okay, my past knowledge helps here. You have some JSON data, prompt and completion. Okay, so this is how you would nudge the model towards giving certain answers by giving it a bunch of JSON data with prompts and completions or answers. And here are some existing data sets. Like here is a model, or here's training data for summarizing conversations. So and yeah, if you look at this, okay, partly it looks familiar, text, and then there's like summary in the text, and there's like some clear formatting, like with instructions. Yeah, so this is what it was trained on, or nudged to give these kind of summary responses when you give it these instructions to summarize a short conversation. And again, it's just nudging. It already knows how to do it, just of all the million ways to respond to this. It might not typically pick what you wanted to do, but by training it, it understands better. It gets molded towards giving the right response from the millions of potential responses. Yeah, and then we already get into Python, and if you're like me and Python is not your main language, you go like immediately, oh, okay, what is this? What does this do? So it says here, however, for reference, here's how you can use the Hugging Face datasets library to download the SAMSUM dataset, which is what we just have been looking at here. Prepare it and save it as a JSON-L file. Now, I find that confusing because, like, first of all, what do they mean by this? You might think like, okay, like, is this? But no, it's not. It's like the very plain JSON data. Just to see what we're actually talking about when you go to Hugging Face. So in Hugging Face, there's a bunch of data, and the first entry looks like this: ID, summary, dialogue, whatever. It would have been really helpful for them to show that example here in those instructions. And then all that this step does is generate the JSON-L file like we just saw. So this step takes plain JSON and formats it into this template. And if you're a senior developer, you go like, well, wait a second, I don't need to know Hugging Face. I don't need Python or the special library or whatever to do that transformation. I can do that. So yeah, so that's sort of I feel they should have emphasized more that first step is just to get it into a format that is from plain JSON to the kind of JSON that is suitable for training. And you can do that any way you want. You know, you can use that library in Python, or you can use something else. I mean, they sort of explain it here, but I still found it kind of confusing. So far, we haven't even done anything like really machine learning specific. We just transformed data. We created a bunch of training data, and then, yeah, surprisingly, it's just an API call to feed that data to the model. And yeah, so you don't actually see what I mean. You don't actually need to know AI or machine learning. You just have to fully understand what it means to fine-tune a model, that it's nudging, that you don't even need like a complete data set of anything that the chatbot or whatever ever has to answer. You just have to feed it enough data to nudge it to know how to respond. And the wisdom, the intelligence is in the model already. So data is just like maybe a helpful nudge often. I feel I'm rambling, but you know, I hope you know what I mean. So I'm trying to find here the replicate. Oh yeah, here we go. So basically, yeah, you get your token. And I do like about replicate that it's not like a huge monthly fee or whatever. You just, it's like pay as you go. Just like any AWS or Azure or whatever. You just give it your credit card, set a limit, and then you just get charged for whatever you're doing. So here, you take that JSON-L file, you would upload it to maybe AWS, like into an S3 bucket or whatever, and then call replicate to fine-tune that model where you created, like you sort of forked it, created your own like version number of it, and then you call the API to run the fine-tuning based on the data you just created. And here they use Python, but I think they also have like HTTP examples where you make an API call to kick off the training, and then you can like make API calls to see if it finished, or you can see it in the interface, and then you have your own model where you can either through the interface or through an API or whatever ping it with your questions, and it responds with, like here, summarizing conversations, but it could be for the podcast, it could be reply with information about whatever, the border wall or whatever, with what the podcaster said about the topic. Yeah, well, so the point is, if you're a senior developer, you already know AI and ML. You just have to understand the concept of it, and everything already is in your toolbox to like fine-tune a model and then to tie it into an app. That's just regular programming then. So don't be intimidated by all this stuff. And yeah, so here they're using Python and their own replicate library, but that's just like a a thin layer for all these async calls to kick off tasks and then check on them. But you can do it with plain HTTP if you don't like doing that kind of stuff in Python. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should say a quick word about cost with Replicate, which is, of course, you set a limit for how much you can get charged. And then let's say with the summary of conversation data set, you give it maybe, I mean, this is way more, but let's say you give the existing model like 200 examples of a song and the super suno prompt that should come out, or you give it 200 conversations and then a sample of what the summary should look like. Of course, it'll cost money basically because there's a lot of underneath the hood, the model has to go through a lot of trial and error sort of to mold the data and information that it has towards the response. And because you don't give it an algorithm, it has to sort of play around a ton behind the scenes till it finds, okay, if I do it this way, the output is very close to what you gave me with the training data. And for what it does actually with this random, almost but sort of directed learning, it's actually, in my opinion, pretty cheap because it takes obviously huge compute resources to do that training. And here I think it said somewhere it costs like $25 to train it on this much data, and so it'll be somewhere in that ballpark. And of course, just running models is super cheap on Replicate. It's like pennies or fractions even of a penny, depending on what you're doing. Yeah, but still, you want to give it a hard limit of how much it can charge, and really keep an eye on your cost. Start with small fine-tuning and just a little bit of sample data and go from there. That was my third important message, just about cost. But yeah, the most difficult thing is the unlearning, because if you interact with a SQL database, you have to tell it everything. You have to tell it the queries, you have to feed it the data, and AI and ML work so differently, where it has vast data built in, compressed in this miraculous kind of way, and it's just about coaxing out the data in the form and style and content that you want. But the data is already, in most cases, it's sort of already in there. You're just nudging it in a direction. And I'll probably make some separate videos about not just the future and how that affects development, because I wonder how any senior developer could look at this and not see how vast majority of a lot of things that you do as a developer can be eventually replaced with this. And there's just some things in a way right now, like the training data is poor, and the training data is like Python code, TypeScript code, all kinds of really dirty code that developers write. But once they figure out good training data for development, and once they figure out a good consolidated way for generating UIs and writing programs and extracting data to one unified language, then whoa, just watch out. But yeah, for now, it's just absolutely fascinating to work with that kind of stuff, and really fun. And I really liked once I discovered all this, and then I kind of regretted all the time that I spent with PyTorch. Because let's face it, I want to jump in and do stuff. I don't want to spend months now to become a Python expert just to tackle certain projects. There are literally thousands of projects I can tackle right now just with the knowledge that I have, and what I explained in this video. So I hope it was helpful to you too. I should really script these videos instead of rambling on, but alright. Look out for more videos off the cuff, and yeah, subscribe, blah blah blah, like, and I'll see you soon. Bye.